the EPA kill the Big Stone Power Plant on the grounds of carbon dioxide. I want you to know that that is incredibly destructive to enterprise, free enterprise in our country. And I want you to know too, when it comes to carbon dioxide, I am not a global warming skeptic. I am a global warming denier. It is a total crock. Totally fabricated.
That brings me to my second.
Okay, just one more comment and I'll take your second.
Okay.
I want you to know, if you go to the EPA website, you can read their new guidelines. And the EPA says on its website, and then I'm just going to paraphrase, they said, we used to evaluate things in terms of cost-benefit analysis. Duh, I mean, that's what every agency should do. But that's not good enough anymore. So we now have these new criteria for evaluating what we're going to permit or not. And you read the criteria, and they are like and include the criteria of environmental integrity. Now, you tell me, what is environmental integrity? Okay, that's how the new criteria read. So what the new criteria say is we are going to do whatever we want. I mean, it's a declaration of we are going to control you, and if you don't like it, that's tough. So what does Congress do about that? Congress goes to the president. The EPA is under the control of the president. Congress goes to the president and says, here are changes you need to make in the EPA. And whoever the president is, this is what the House has to do. These are the changes you have to make in the EPA. And if the president says no, the House has to say, gee, we just, 10% across the board except for the EPA. 100% cut for the EPA. Oh, you want to talk turkey after all? Okay? I mean, really, this is what it's going to take. Even though it's under the president, the body that holds the purse strings can rein it in. And I will say, frankly, if we don't rein in the EPA, free enterprise in our country is in a bad position. We all know that. Okay, second question.
You talked about free enterprise kind of being the engine of growth. Well, it looks over the last couple of weeks that HSBC made great amounts of profit money laundering. What is your position on regulation for major banks and whether or not people who engage in those activities ought to be prosecuted?
Be more specific in terms of what...
Well, it looks like HSBC was giving money, helping the Mexican drug lords launder their money. Yeah. It looks like they were trying to help Iran evade sanctions, right. Monetary sanctions, right. Doing business with North Korea as well. Right. And I believe helping fund some of the Al-Qaeda networks right. by working with Saudi and Bangladeshi banks. Yeah, well,
first of all, we need a president that's willing to enforce the law. And we know the president has said on immigration he's not willing to enforce the law. That's a violation of the Constitution. Is that an impeachable offense? Yes, it is. All right? The Constitution is very explicit on that. It says that the Congress shall set the policies, regulate the laws with regards to immigration and naturalization, not the president. So you have to have a president that's going to enforce the law. And then part of it is you can't have constant, what should I say, subsidies to financial organizations. All right. Let me underscore that with one of the facts that concerns me. The partial audit of the Federal Reserve revealed that from 2007 to 2010, the Federal Reserve put out $16 trillion in zero-interest loans. To the financial institutions of the world, 70% located outside the United States. And as a businessman who's been quite successful, I would love to have 0% interest loans. I mean, you can't lose money. Okay, so example, Goldman Sachs got over $800 billion in 0% interest loans from the Federal Reserve. Most of that money Goldman Sachs used to turn right around and buy U.S. securities at 4% interest. Do the math. $32 billion profit for doing nothing. So you can't have this constant, what should I say, flow of money to financial institutions, much of which is going to be used against us. And so those sorts of things, but you have to enforce the law. And I think that's probably key. You need a president that enforces the law. And I want you to know, if you have a president that's in violation of the Constitution, the House should start drawing up impeachment proceedings. And there's precedent for that. Nixon, Richard Nixon, who was kind of a scoundrel. The impeachment proceedings included not following the Constitution. So those sorts of things. The big things are, we have to follow the Constitution because it's there to protect our freedom, our property, okay? And we have to operate from a position of financial responsibility. You know, this is not rocket science. It's really quite simple. We just need the courage, leadership to do it. Yes, sir.
I want to say, Al, I was with you most of the way through your presentation. And then when you started talking about Big Stone and being a global warming denier, I got really upset.
Okay.
When I look at that debt chart, I understand the kind of burden that my children and my grandchildren are facing.
Right.
I also know that this has been the warmest decade since we started keeping track. I know that there's over...
That's not true, but anyway, go ahead.
There's over 1,000 counties in the United States right now facing severe drought. The United States is the breadbasket of the world. Al, you're a farmer. How are we going to feed people if the weather ain't on our side? I really believe that is just as big a threat to my children and my grandchildren as that debt.
Okay.
So no, but they're only going to convention I've had so far.
Okay.
I have a question.
But well, ask your question, but I want to comment on what you said. Yes, go ahead.
My wife and I are both small business owners. And I know that last year, I didn't pay much tax because I didn't make a whole lot of money. But I also know that I paid more than General Electric and ExxonMobil.
Right.
You know, I believe in America, in small business, being the innovators that drive this economy.
Right.
I believe I'm being unfairly taxed because they're not paying their fair share, and that has to be part of the formula for paying down this debt.